But my beats, they are hard.
Okay. All right. Let me try to get everything ready. Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the BCSN SportsWrap. I'm Bryan Fulford, soon to be joined by Kelvin Carter, who'll be co-hosting with me tonight as AD Drew is at the SIAC Baseball Championships happening right now live in Macon, Georgia. And so that is where Drew is, and Kelvin's taking care of some business, so he'll be joining the show coming up here. Wow. Did anybody just finish watching Game 7 of the 8v1 matchup between the Detroit Pistons and the Orlando Magic? What an absolutely disgusting game. What an absolutely disgusting game. I mean, now if you were rooting for Detroit, hey, you're feeling pretty good about what you saw. Exactly. Go Pistons. Me, of course, living in the city of Orlando, former Magic season ticket holder back when Dwight Howard was an MVP, or I guess a defensive player of the year, 3-time defensive player of the year. What I saw today was just absolutely disgusting. Up 3-1, and they blew it for the second time. Now, what's crazy is we've now seen two teams. I think so. Yeah, we've seen two teams now blow 3-1 leads. Saturday night we saw Boston blow a 3-1 lead thanks to Philadelphia and Joel Embiid coming back, and then of course, after Game 6, Jason Tatum gets hurt. Boston gets beat, and Philly looked good. I mean, what's crazy is after, some of you who follow me on Twitter, on X, as I still like to call it, you may have noticed I put out a tweet that basically if you were someone who dabbled in future markets, you saw that the Sixers prior to, I think it was Game 5 or Game 6, or after Game 5, they were like plus 2850. That's 28-1 to win the Eastern Conference. Then before Game 7, it was 22-1, plus 2250. And I was telling myself, Bryan, you got to sprinkle a little bit on that. Because after watching Joel Embiid and the Sixers fully healthy for 2 games, they look good. Now, you can't trust it. You cannot trust Paul George and Joel Embiid to stay healthy long enough. But, who knows? God may shine on them with great health. And with what I saw, Philadelphia looked like, you had Maxey, you got Embiid, the young rookie, you've got Paul George, who doesn't have to be a first or second option, but he's still a good, top 15, top 20 NBA talent. 22-1, hell, that looked pretty good. I didn't do it. And then what do you know? The Sixers end up winning, and now that number dropped. We're now, to win the East, they're like 650. But anyway, I jumped on the Magic bandwagon after Game 5, and I'm thinking, this team is cooked. And Jalen Duren out there being trolled by his ex, Angel Reese, Wendell Carter's. Anyway, if you know, you know. But I'm just thinking there's no way the Magic are going to lose. They got to win. They were going to come back to Orlando in Game 6. And then all of a sudden they have an epic meltdown where they couldn't find a bucket on 23 straight attempts. I think I read a stat, 45 minutes of real time that they didn't score. What is this, Edwin? So anyway, I just an epic loss, and so anyway, Detroit advances, and now you got another Game 7 tonight, Cleveland, Toronto. Toronto gets the fortuitous bounce, the great bounce, another great bounce. I think that's the same rim that Kawhi Leonard hit his great shot in the Eastern Conference, the semifinals or finals against the Sixers. And that Toronto team ends up going on to win the title. But I think it was RJ Barrett who hits the shot from the top. The ball hits the back of the rim, goes straight up in the air, comes down. I saw my guy, Tyrese Halliburton, hit a similar shot to send the Knicks home last year. So looked pretty good. But what's going to happen tonight, is who's winning Game 7? Who's winning Game 7 of this next one? Cleveland or Toronto? You guys let me know in the chat if you got any interest in that. And then, of course, we start in the Western Conference where they're the Final Four in the West. But anyway, how would you rate the NBA playoffs so far? 2 weeks of NBA playoffs. What kind of grade would you give it? I'd actually, other than the fact that I can never find what damn channel the games are on, I would actually rate the NBA playoffs at about a B+ A- right now. I hate the fact that I can't, and I have access to every channel in the world, but I still don't know on a night-by-night basis who's carrying a playoff game. I think Friday night was the one night where Prime had all 3 games. But most of the time, you got to flip to one channel for like 1 or 2 games, and you got to flip to another channel. Anyway, I don't want to, look, technology these days, I should be able to just jump on the internet and find it, right? Yes, I know. Peacock, Amazon, ESPN, I almost have to build, you have to build settings on your TV. Like you got to make all of those favorites and then hope that, anyway, it's too many, but I don't want to get off my lawn, guy, because that's just the world we're in. But, try to explain it to someone in their 70s, probably 60s, 70s, who grew up watching the NBA on maybe 2 networks. Now you got to find 4 different networks and half of them are streaming. But anyway, see, G-Boom said he couldn't find the ones Friday night. Yeah, it was Amazon Prime because they had them all. They had them all on Friday night. Go Shocker. The best thing you can do is go see NBA.com, NBA Twitter. But you guys let me know. Coming up, Game 7, Toronto and Cleveland coming up tonight. Let me know what you guys think. But again, coming up in hour 2, Kelvin Carter is going to join me. We're going to talk about a few things. We'll get into talking about the week that was. Of course, a lot of baseball, softball championships at the Division II level. Of course, right now happening in Macon, Georgia, the SIAC baseball championships are happening, and that's why AD Drew is not there. So they started the baseball tournament. Let's see, what day did they actually start it in the SIC? They started it, technically was supposed to start Thursday, but then they ran into all kinds of weather after I think they got all the games in on Thursday the 30th. Then they had some delays with weather on Friday. They only played 1 game on Saturday. Talk about weather really playing a chaos on you. And so here they are into Sunday. We're coming into today. You had an elimination game between Morehouse and Miles College this morning. Morehouse was down 7-2 at one point in the contest. When I flipped on the game on the SIC network.tv, where you can watch all the games, it was 7-4, I think, in the bottom of the 7th inning. Morehouse scored 3 runs in I'm going to pull up the box score. Yep. No, it was the 8th inning. I tuned in the 7th. But bottom of the 8th inning, Morehouse scores 3 runs, a solo homer, then followed up by a 2-run homer. That ties it up in the bottom of the 8th inning. And then going into the bottom of the 9th inning, a freshman by the name of Cameron Simmons singles, brings in the game-winning RBI. Morehouse wins 8-7 over Miles. Yeah, and at one point, Miles had a 7-2 lead thanks to a 5-run 5th inning, right? So congratulations to Morehouse. They advance. They're in the losers bracket. So they are going to play another opponent that came out of the losers bracket, the game that followed them, which was Benedict versus Savannah State. Benedict ended up winning that ball game 13-10. That game probably just finished maybe sometime within the last hour. And coming up now, I believe this is a game over on the winner's side between Edward Waters and Spring Hill. I'm just kind of looking here. Edward Waters. Yeah, this is a winner's bracket to advance to the championship game. Edward Waters versus Spring Hill. Now, if you want to catch any of that action, go over to SIC Network .tv, and that's where you can catch some of that game. The winner advances. The loser will move to the next bracket where they will play the winner of Benedict and Morehouse. Those two teams play tonight, the nightcap. So I think that, and it's crazy. Even the SIC had one of these games that ended at something like 2 a.m. I don't know which game it was, but Jesus, man, 2 a.m. I don't understand how you let a collegiate baseball game, especially when you have extra days, and I don't know weather, I don't know all the rules, but man, you let that game go on until 2 a.m. And I've been a part of one of those late night games. I remember a few years back, we did the Black College World Series. We had a game, that ran into the next day, put it like that. So yeah, that game going on until 2 a.m. is outrageous. But anyway, it was what it was. So again, I don't know. Let me see if the live stats show if that game has started, the Edward Waters Spring Hill game. Yeah, right now they're in the top of the 4th inning, Edward Waters and Spring Hill. So if you got an opportunity and you can do multiple screens and you want to bump over to the SIC network, you can watch that game. And then following that game will be an elimination game between Benedict and Morehouse. So again, the winner of Edward Waters and Spring Hill advance. Speaking of Spring Hill, I'm just going to quickly mention it just in case you wondered about the SIC softball. Spring Hill softball team ended up winning that. I think they beat Fort Valley State. So Fort Valley State's magical run comes to an end. Spring Hill wins another one. And my God, you talk about teams in the SIC. I know Spring Hill is going on to bigger and better things. But as a non-HBCU school, I know there's probably a lot of fans, alums, teams might be happy to see Spring Hill leave. Now, it says something, the fact that y'all haven't been able to beat Spring Hill. I mean, Spring Hill has beaten up the SIC in a lot of the Olympic sports. They don't have a football program. They don't have a great basketball program, but they seem to beat up teams in the SIC and practically everything else. Volleyball, softball, baseball, tennis. I don't think they do very well in track and field, but man, they, I don't know. If you can't beat them, let them leave, and then you'll start seeing some new winners in the SIC. But Spring Hill has I think this is their last year, so maybe somebody between Edward Waters, Benedict, or Morehouse baseball, somebody can go ahead and prevent them from walking out the door with another SIC title. So. Yeah. if you caught some of the news earlier in the week regarding the HBCU AC, the softball champions were Dillard University as they outlasted Stillman College. I think they had that best of 3 series in softball at the HBCU AC level. You know, that was pretty. I love that format, by the way. And but they ended up having to play Stillman in the best of 3, and they beat them. So that was pretty good for Dillard University. And then on the baseball side of things, Talladega College winning the HBCU AC tournament. And so we'll kind of see what the NAIA level looks like for them. Oh, man. Well, looking at some of the action today, SWAC baseball. Holy cow. I'm feeling some kind of way right now. As for the first time this season, the Rattlers, my beloved FAMU baseball team, was swept by Grambling State. First off, they had the doubleheader yesterday in which Grambling rallied to defeat FAMU 12-11 in game 1 of the doubleheader. Then they beat FAMU 6-4 in game 2. Then today, at one point, FAMU was up 9-3. Yes, 9-3. Final score, no BS. 19-9 run ruled. Run ruled our ass right out of Grambling, Louisiana in 7 innings. FAMU put up 7 runs in the top of the 3rd, 2 runs in the top of the 4th. Going into the bottom of the 4th, the score is 9-3. Grambling then proceeds to put up 2 in the bottom of the 4th, 3 in the bottom of the 5th, 6 in the bottom of the 6th, and another 5 in the bottom of the 7th. Holy cow. Talk about the wheels coming off and rolling into a ditch. Grambling put up 19 runs on 17 hits. FAMU committed 3 errors, 9 runs, 10 hits. What an absolutely horrible weekend. And what's crazy is I was the person sitting here talking about I would be shocked. And I said this, whether it be on the ONG or Doc show sometime this week. I said I would be absolutely shocked if anybody swept anybody. I mean, because going into this weekend, everybody in the SWAC, you had literally one game separating first to second, second to third, few teams tied in 4th. I mean, that's what it was. Look, Edwin, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say it on this show, and I said it first on Doc show Thursday. It maybe started with the Prairie View thing in football, but the West. This is the year of the West. The West is back. The SWAC West. I hope this isn't true because we still got softball and baseball championships to play, and some track and field. But it feels like the SWAC West is back, having done what they did in football, men and women's basketball. To see the 3 teams in the softball division all being ranked metrically ahead of the top team in the East. Now, of course, they got to play the games, so we'll see what happens in the softball tournament. But I mean, yeah, man. I'm giving the SWAC. The SWAC West might be back. It might be back. I'm just saying it. You know, I'm hoping my SWAC East teams, JSU, Alabama State, can rise up and it's time to defend the East. The East will rise again, hopefully, or I don't know, whatever it is they're saying. But anyway, label me as very disappointed in the fact that FAMU got swept this weekend. Bethune-Cookman ended up losing the 3rd game of their series against UAPB. We kind of talked about UAPB, even though they got hammered in game 1 to Bethune-Cookman, 19-9. UAPB won game 2 of the doubleheader on Saturday, 10-6, but they lost game 3, 6-4. Let me see another interesting game another interesting series that I know people were watching today. Okay, Southern did end up continuing to ride. Now, at one point, Southern was down to Valley, but it looks like Southern ended up sweeping Valley. Prairie View won today 8-7 over Alabama A&M after they had lost 10-7 yesterday. That was that a triple? Yeah. So you had a series that took place up in Chicago, Illinois. Prairie View won game 1 15-11 on Friday. Saturday, Alabama A&M won 10-7, and today Prairie View with an 8-7 win. Texas Southern and Alabama State are playing. I know I got some let's see. Any updates from anybody over there regarding that series? Okay, that classic was at Wrigley Field. Okay, good stuff. Let's take a look at what the SWAC standings look like right now. It's all kinds of fluid. Oh, man. Let's see. So Southern continues their hot winning ways. Southern has moved up to 1 game out of first place. Bethune-Cookman, of course, still in first. But now, going into the weekend series, it was Florida A&M who was a game back. Now it's Southern by winning another series. And if I'm not mistaken, let me see, Southern lost a midweek game. So that is now the 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth consecutive series sweep by Southern. Now, say what you want. They played Grambling State, Alcorn State, UAPB, and Valley. But hey, you win the games on the schedule, and it matters, right? 12 straight conference wins. I only brought that up not to disparage. Okay, Travis says Alabama State got the sweep this weekend as well. So again, the standings right now. So as mentioned, Bethune's in first, Southern's in second. Assuming that the SWAC's website is correct, Texas Southern is sitting in second at a 15-7 mark. Grambling State, winners of course, the 3 in a row against FAMU, is now sitting in fourth, 16-8. Alabama State, winners of 4 in a row, are in fifth. And FAMU fell to 6th place. Jesus. Went from 2-6 just like that with 1 sweep. Name the SWAC schools that beat BCU, Edwin says. Man. Nobody has won more than 1 game. I mean, thank you. I use D1 baseball. Thank you for that. I thought about that. Let me see. D1 baseball. Yeah. Because I know sometimes, asking me about who has beaten BCU, I'll tell you, BCU has not lost a series. I do know that to be a fact. But they haven't swept anybody. It's been a minute since they've swept anybody. Okay, here, according to D1 baseball. Oh, see, they're not even up to date on D1 baseball because, well, maybe they are. Okay, you guys tell me, do the math here. So let's see. By this point in the season, 19-5, you should have played how many games? 24. 24 games should be in pocket. According to D1 baseball, now the previous update I gave you was from SWAC website. According to D1 baseball, this says Southern is 2.5 games back with a 16-7 conference record. It says Florida A&M is 2.5 games back as well with a 16-7. Alabama State 3.5 games back with a 15-8 record. Texas Southern is also 3.5 back, 15-8, and Grambling's 15-8 as well. I don't know. This says Alabama State has a 5-game winning streak, so I don't know who to. All right, let me see. I can trust when I got SIDs in here. Let me see. Travis says we are 1 game. Jackson State play Alcorn. Okay, so the makeup game for Jackson State is against Alcorn. Yeah, thank you, Travis. Send it to me via text or something. I know you got my text. FAMU is 16-8. So let me see. Is D1 correct? No, because see, they show 16-7. Okay, so the stuff just hasn't populated yet, guys. I mean, we want these things instantly. The SWAC website says FAMU is 15-9. D1, come on now. All right, hold on. I got a couple people texting you. Okay, let me see. Here we go. Dr. Cavill's got the latest. Okay, standings through the end of 5-3 games. Appreciate you, Doc. All right, here we go. Bethune 19-5. I think everybody's got that right. Here's where we start to see some differences. Southern 17-7 right now. So that's 2 games back. Then you have 3 teams tied at 16-8. You have Grambling, Florida A&M, and Alabama State all right now at 16-8. Of course, Grambling, by nature of getting the sweep over FAMU, looking like they're the 3rd place team. I guess, Doc, you have you have tiebreakers included in here, so I can't recall whether I think FAMU beat Alabama State. I don't know if Grambling and Alabama State played, but anyway, Texas Southern is in 6th with a 15-9 record. Then you have UAPB at 12-12 and Jackson State at 11-12. And like Travis just said, they got a makeup game coming tomorrow against Alcorn. So, I mean, technically Jackson State will probably be 12-12 by sundown Monday. So there you go. So on only 2 series left. 2 series left. 2 weekends to go before we get into the SWAC baseball tournament. That'll be wow. Well, that'll be interesting. As I kind of just glance ahead at what next weekend's schedule looks like. Okay, so Florida A&M is traveling to Alabama A&M. Prairie View's at Alcorn. Grambling State's at UAPB. That's going to be a good series. Jackson State at Mississippi Valley State. Did I mention Prairie View at Alcorn? Yes, I did. Bethune at Alabama State. That should be interesting. Texas Southern at Southern. That should be interesting. So that's what's on the docket for the upcoming weekend with 6 games remaining, 6 conference games remaining pretty much for everybody. And I think, SWAC baseball tournament definitely is going to be fire. Be really good to pay attention to. But I will tell you what the tournament that I'm really looking forward to, is going to be that softball tournament, which begins on Tuesday. Softball begins on Tuesday. So, okay. Let's take that first break. And when we come back, Kelvin Carter will be joining me, and we'll get into talking about a few things. Again, mention that the softball tournament will be started. I also want to give a shout out to something that happened over the weekend, which has not happened, dare I say, ever or in nearly 100 years. I'll save that as the tease coming back from the break. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap. Hang tight. Bryan Fulford. I'll be joined by Kelvin Carter in just a moment right here on the Black College Sports Network. Be back in just a moment.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
Okay, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan Fulford, joined by none other than Kelvin Carter. Kelvin, good to have you on, man. Thanks for taking time to join me tonight.
Yeah, great joining you, B. How you doing today?
Man, I'm doing all right. I'm still a little salty that I allowed myself to jump on the Orlando Magic bandwagon, and they do what they do, which is, you know, they act like a little baby that's had too much milk and, you know, just all over themselves. That's all I can say, man. So
but they are, if you think about it, it's although the games are it's interesting. We love playoff basketball. Most people don't watch NBA until playoffs because they feel like the product is bad. So if you think about it strategically, we have a situation where they're an 8th seed. So they outperform the 8th seed. Okay, sounds good. They outperformed it. But guess what? They are doing what an 8th seed was supposed to do, which was lose.
Exactly. They are what they are, right? They did what they were supposed to do. Well said. Well said, man. Well said. I don't know if you they forced a game 7. That's not enough for me, Carlos. That's not enough. Forcing a game 7. No, Detroit forced the game 7. That's what happened. Magic were supposed to win game 6. We're really talking about it, right? I mentioned in the break, Kelvin, I don't know if you caught this story. Something historic happened that hadn't happened in nearly 92 years. You know, I'd say when you start doing things that haven't been done in a century, I mean, damn, that's like, wow, really? Your university and you've been doing, and you hadn't done it in a nearly 100 years. I don't know if some of you all been paying attention to this, but Virginia Union men's track program is having a historic season. They just won the 2026 CIAA Outdoor Track and Field Championship. It's the first men's outdoor conference title in nearly a century. Reading this right from HBCUGameDay.com, the Panthers captured the men's championship with 150.5 points, ending a 92-year drought.
Wow.
Let me repeat that again. A 92-year drought. The last outdoor track crown for Virginia Union came in 1934. Damn. This on the heels of Virginia Union winning an indoor title. And I think that was the first time that they had won the indoor in, let me see. I don't want to go so far as say, I know it'd been a long time, maybe ever, that they won an indoor. So that
was their first ever on the indoor. And a kid named Antonio Smith placed third at the NCAA Track Field Championships. 110 high hurdles. He went 14-0. You had some good numbers in there, and I think track and field is one of those places where maybe we don't talk enough about it at our institutions. I know A&T has had a history of, producing some Olympians that the Olympic prospects. And track and field is also one of the spaces where maybe, you don't have to have the best team around you. Your times stand across the span. So you have a situation where you could have some great individuals there running for you that, in essence, end up really, really patient. I know Lincoln out of Missouri, Jeff City, Missouri, usually shows really, really well at the Penn relays and with individual statistics in terms of track and field.
Yeah, great point. Great point. I think even formally prior to, there was a period of time when St. Augustine, right now we kind of look at all the issues that St. Augustine is having, but they had a very prominent track program at the Division II level nationally. And, it's kind of sad seeing what's happening to their university overall, not just athletics, but just overall. Having to file bankruptcy, I believe is the story that I read earlier this week. So, yeah, I mean, it's so, the thing that, I was thinking about this, Kelvin, it's so hard and I guess I thought about this from the SIC perspective because, I know Drew is doing stuff with them and I know Roy's doing a lot of production work, and I was at the volleyball tournament. So the SIC went from men's volleyball to track and field to softball to baseball. I mean that's almost a 2-week journey of spring sports that they had to go through. And I think that, I don't think the CIAA is that far off removed. There's a little bit of a break for the Division I, SWAC, and MEAC. But, I mean, the month of April and May are very busy months for HBCUs. And it is hard to keep track of it. We don't have enough we don't have enough time in the day between all the stories and then all the stuff that goes on with just football and basketball and so I mean it's just a lot
they keep us distracted because the portal will open and then you got signing day and then we're sitting here wondering what's going to happen for fall and I'm not going to say it's a diminished piece, but I think Drew could probably speak to this more so. When you're inside that university setting, you have to take the opportunity to highlight these sports and have an ongoing continuum of information going on about them. Like we've had at Alcorn, for instance, we've had some really good softball. SWAC plays really good baseball. You made mention to prior about the BCU team doing really well, especially with the SEC victories. And it kind of goes away so fast, and then it'll come out in a thread. I had some people in St. Louis call me. It's like, hey, man, this is like monumental for HBCUs. I was like, that's like 14 days old. But it is a big deal. But it just kind of reached and surfaced into the into that ecosystem. So yeah, we probably need to really look at, how we engage student ambassadors and campus ambassadors, with regards to, that. And yes, that is SOD Dynamite Day in the background. Southern Baton Rouge hosted it one. I think FAMU is pretty good at putting on the same product where they invite high school kids in for their day and they blend in and they make one big band. So kudos to the group that really does a lot of work during the fall with a large body of students. Most of them have 200 plus members inside their organizations, and they are too an intricate part of, I believe, what's moving forward with SWAC TV and football season in the SWAC. So yes, that's that is the SOD in the background with Dynamite Day, but Southern just hosted theirs a week before. FAMU just had theirs. So, that's just a little pivot point, Bryan, for us as we go into talking about what we want to look at during the fall, for what we have to come.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to also kind of make mention, earlier in the show, I was talking a little bit about the baseball, some of the results from the baseball weekend, but obviously softball, SWAC softball is coming up this weekend or this week in Gulfport, Mississippi. And in case you hadn't seen the brackets, here's a more sophisticated, artistic
I like
bracket. That. Yeah, they took the original PDF and they kind of jazzed it up with the logos and everything. But anyway, the opening round matchups, you get the East v West because unfortunately softball still does not play cross division or
no.
they don't.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's still East v East, West v West. And so you get the one, if you look at the top of the bracket there, you get Jackson State versus Texas Southern. That's a 2 East versus a 3 West matchup. Then you get number 1 seed Prairie View taking on number 4 seed Alabama State. Kind of odd to see Alabama State as a 4 seed, but that's where they are. That'll be an interesting matchup. Then you get the bottom half of the bracket. You get the 2 seed in the West, Southern University against the 3 seed Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. And then you get the nightcap, the 1 seed in the East versus the 4 seed from the West, UAPB. Double elimination tournament. So after day 1, winners advance, the losers move down to the bottom bracket. And, we've been kind of talking about that, as you kind of glance at this bracket, who do you have your eyes on going into this SWAC softball tournament, okay?
Well, I think FAMU has a great pitcher, Amari Brown, preseason pitcher of the year. And that'll be, in the softball, what you're trying to do is cut down on the scoring. So they got a really, really strong pitcher. And then offensively, Grambling has, a real big time, individual performer in terms of at the plate. So when you look at this, it's going to be, it's going to be fun. What I like to see is I really like to see the other sports be really competitive, and baseball and softball, especially in particular for SWAC, have been competitive. And yes, this should be FAM's year. I think FAM, I don't know, they're probably as close as it can be to be loaded on that softball side.
Don't fall into that trap. That's Israel trying to look. He knows Jackson State is Dr. Carey knows that Jackson State are the 2-time champs, and they just want everybody to be looking elsewhere. Don't buy it. I ain't buying it for anyway.
For multiple reasons, because you're a rattler. You don't want to buy it just because you don't want to jinx your group. But I truly understand. But like I said, I like to see, especially with a double elimination platform, really like to see how it gets going. And I think this is great for the student bodies and the place where it's at the Gulfport Sports Complex, Mississippi Gulf Coast, great environment for that. So I think the kids, giving them an enjoyable collision experience, and from what we know about budgets and all these things and how everything works. So we just want to make sure, that we're highlighting those activities within our institutions.
Yeah. So the I'm sorry, I just got my updated standings here. Thank you, Travis, and thank you, Doc, earlier as well. This is the year where the metrics, and I've talked about this, a few times, and I'm not a voter on anybody's softball polls, but this is a year where the SWAC West has 3 teams, Prairie View Southern and Texas Southern, have all been rated, or at least they were going into last week of the season, all rated above Florida A&M in terms of like RPI and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you're following that kind of thing. Those are all schools that, Southern and Prairie View both won 18 games. Texas Southern won 17, really probably could have won 18th, but they really didn't have to play the 18th game.
Mm-hmm.
FAMU won 19 games. Jackson State and Alabama State both won 16. So I think, I've heard Doc say, I've heard a few other people say, this is going to be the most, parity might be the word, but this will be probably the most competitive SWAC tournament where you may look at a team like FAMU. You could look at Prairie View and say they're the 4-time West champs. They've been knocked out. They've been 2 and done the last 2 seasons. Prairie View has, if I'm not mistaken, 2 and out. So that'll be interesting to see what that angle is. You got Jackson State, you have Southern that went 17-0 at home. There's so many interesting storylines going into this SWAC tournament. I can't wait to hear, Charles Edmond does a great job, does a great storytelling. I think he said Simone Stanley will be doing some of the on-field work, but there are a lot of storylines to talk about and a lot of different angles, and it's going to be fascinating to watch this thing play out.
Well, Texas Southern is entering the tournament on an 8-game winning streak. They are probably the statistical dark horse, but they're the hottest team coming in. And if you look at Prairie View, if you just look at the basic data analytics of it, they almost have 100% probability of winning. But we also know how tournament play works. Like you said, it's double elimination. However, I think between Prairie View, FAMU, Southern, and Texas Southern, you're going to have some really good softball that's going to be played at the Gulfport softball complex.
Yeah, good stuff. Let's jump back over to baseball, Kelvin. I want you to react a little bit to some of the baseball news. Okay, I finally got. Okay, we're gonna go. I feel like in the last segment, I think I gave 2 different standings. In talking about the SWAC baseball tournament or baseball season. So here we go. These are about as official as you're going to get, right? And I think I don't think these necessarily all take into consideration tiebreakers. But as mentioned earlier, Bethune's in first. Southern sits 2 games back of first place. Southern has won 12 straight SWAC games, Kelvin.
Okay, I thought it was 10. Okay.
4 straight series.
Okay.
That they have swept. Then you've got a 3-team race for third, between 3rd and 5th, between Alabama State, Grambling State, Florida A&M, all sitting at 16-8, where Grambling State swept Florida A&M. Florida A&M has beaten Alabama State. And hold on, let me see if I don't know what the end result was for let me see. Alabama State.
I think save for Bethune-Cookman is really interesting to see that baseball and softball actually have the same teams.
Wait a minute. Say that again.
It's interesting to see that baseball and softball have the same teams. In terms of the competitive nature, take out Bethune-Cookman.
Okay.
Southern Florida A&M and Southern Baton Rouge and Texas Southern all. It's just really interesting to see that those teams, in the program alignment piece.
You're right. It's funny you say that. Yep, because Bethune's in both, Southern's in both, Alabama State, Grambling State. No, Grambling State's not in the softball. Grambling State's, I think that's UAPB that's in softball. So FAMU, Texas Southern, Arkansas Pine Bluff is sitting in the 7th spot right now, and then Jackson State is sitting in 8th.
Okay.
But yeah, it is like you said, it is an alignment where pretty much seven schools are in both right now in the hunt. And I don't think, unless something happens where Valley catches a hot streak, and I think the top 8 in SWAC are going to be the top 8. It's just a matter of what order. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point. 7 of the 8 schools are in alignment with each other in terms of their baseball and softball program.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of speaks to who they are. Diamond schools are consistent in baseball and softball. Exactly. And I think it's going to be, it should be a really good tournament on both sides. SWAC baseball is just so interesting because they have so many prospects, and I just like the way it always plays out. Like being here in St. Louis with the Cardinals, and they've had 3 Jackson State players play for the Cardinals organization. And one thing about the Cardinals organization here in St. Louis is they love their African-American players. They love the historic piece of it. And then you have Dennis Oilcan Boyd, who's from Meridian, Mississippi, where I'm from, that played for Jackson State and for the Boston Red Sox and Texas Rangers. So when you think about SWAC baseball, it doesn't get a lot of highlight. And I'm thinking this new media space, I do think that the schools, again, need to take a more proactive piece in having the type of coverage of their sports that are not, football, basketball, and from the student perspective. And that's one thing Drew and I talked about with the SIAC and the Morehouse baseball. They had I don't know if it was a staffer or a parent that just had this Uber Live, Facebook Live piece around Morehouse baseball that kind of got the attention of them and said, hey, there's an interest in this out here, obviously based upon how much energy has been spent there on that.
Yeah, I have so many thoughts about what could be, and I think so many schools. How do I want to be sensitive how I say this? I think so many of our schools, because of staffing, are trying to wade water, keep their head above water with the things they do. It just comes across as not many of them seem to be thinking outside of the box. And I say that not that they don't want to, maybe they just don't have the capabilities, resources, infrastructure, organizational structure. I mean, you know what I'm saying? All those things are limiting what could be and why we don't, So I like to.
Edwin just put a question in there, Brian. So Edwin, throw in the chat what industry you work in, and that would be kind of helpful for us. But Brian and I both work in K-12 education, right? And the one thing about K-12 education is, even if we don't get it right, there's always actively seeking ways to try to get better or perform better. And I'll give a prime example. Here in St. Louis, there's a school here called Chaminade Preparatory High School. They're a pretty good basketball school. They've had 3 professional athletes come out of there. David Lee, NBA champion, Bradley Beal, and Jason Tatum, NBA champion with the Boston Celtics, I believe. So their gym is so small, at the school, and they're not going to expand it. They don't care if they had pros or not. They're not going to build a bigger gym. They created their own CSPN called the Chaminade Sports Network, ran by students. And they said, you know what? If I know you guys want to see the guy play, you can't get in the gym. We're not going to deny you this aspect. So people started watching their YouTube channel. And right now, the kid that ran the channel is Julian Mitchell, and he's director of sports, I believe, over near Mo Carter over in Alabama. He went to Michigan State, went to Minneapolis. So he turned it into an opportunity. But I think in the age of technology that we're in, is it a resource problem, or is it the ability to actually cultivate relationships with students to say, hey, here's an opportunity for you to take something and grow it, which would be a baseball, filming baseball. Baseball is a little bit more difficult. It's a diamond, but I think in the atmospheres like at Alcorn, I think almost you could get two iPhones on it or an iPad on it. But having somebody to say, here's how you could grow something out of a platform of a sport that is a beloved sport across the country, maybe not everywhere. But baseball, you talk about Lou Brock and you talk about these guys, these people here will run you over to get to a Cardinals game, whether they're winning or losing. So baseball does have its cachet piece. But Bryan, I do think he said elaborate on think outside the box. I think somebody does have to take the initiative with students to say, hey, here's some ways that you guys can gain credit, earn experience, learn the game of baseball. Right now, the Cardinals are big because of radio. And I know we don't think a lot about radio. I think Roy and I had this conversation this week about what radio was in 1997 versus what it is right now in 2006. And, when we talk about it's both a resource issue and an expertise issue, Dr. Cavill, you're spot on. So then how do we reach into our alumni bags and see, man, who do we have out there in this space, right, that has expertise that can lend it and almost like as a what we call when we're giving the doing good to do good. You're going to give back. Bryan gives back to FAMU in whatever way possible. Dr. Cavill, you do your job. We all try to contribute back to our spaces in an understanding.
So I, for the longest, have been thinking about, when I think about outside the box, some of the simplest things that are missing right now are seeing recaps of games. Now, look, I discovered recently that I had a resource which allowed me to look at the same game film that our college coaches look at.
Mm-hmm.
I have access to all that. And what was really, one thing I started doing on our O&G show is I started going in and I could go in and organize clips of just the offensive possessions of the game. Every made bucket. I mean, there's only probably about 20, 25 of them, which is really, once you clip it all together, it's probably a 2 or 3 minute segment, 2 or 3 minute of video, B-roll. And I realized, man, there's so many people that might have missed the game, or when you're talking about something that you want to be able to show the highlights. But imagine if your project, or you were able to build a project where, after the football game, somebody was able to splice together a 2 to 3 minute package with the audio voiceover, the B-roll, and you just do a recap of the game. Same thing with basketball. I mean, the stories are being written, so being able to add video to the copy is not terribly hard. But I say all that because, and I'm coming from a world and an era when I was inspired by what I saw happening by ESPN, right? And so when I'm at school in the mid 90s, I'm wanting to replicate that for my school, which is actually how the Black College Sports Network kind of came to be formed, is because we were like, why aren't we doing that? Why don't we have something like that for us at FAMU? And that's when Roy and I started down the road, right, of trying to replicate something that was already existing, but bringing it into our world. But still, to this day, it still shocks me that nobody, like, you can see these highlight videos on Instagram put together to music, but I still say the biggest miss on all of that is how many times do you watch those videos and not know who that is or who someone is? It's like, so I feel like sometimes the biggest miss is just being able to give somebody a recap of what happened. Here we are in this visual medium, this visual world, and I don't know, like if I had to put a video package of the Morehouse game, I mean, it wouldn't take but a minute to 2 minutes to be able to mix in who did what, the top 10 plays of that game would turn into probably about a minute to a minute and a half package.
Well, and I also think too, Bryan, that might be some good food for thought. Self-reflection is the best reflection, right? We're here on the Sports Wrap, and but Dr. Cavill said it both. It's a resource issue and an expertise issue. For instance, some things I just don't know how to do, and I'm at Alcorn games 70% of the time. Shoot some still photography. I can give you an analysis. We can grab the game recap that's going to be produced out by the SID. But what you're saying is true, because that coach's cut is critical, because they sit there and watch all the scoring plays or watch all of the tackles for loss. And I think the evolution of where we're headed and where we're going, especially with SWAC TV and what's going on with the conference, and I think the SIAC is doing a great job with their broadcast, is something more like that. And I keep asking the question, why wouldn't I have a show where we come on and it's like, hey, a little contracted piece. I think with some access, we could get this going, because from what I see in the high school space with football and basketball, in terms of some of these videographers, the talent is really, really there, right? In terms of the recording, might need some voiceover work, might need some of that. But in terms of the capture, maybe we're just not curating it in a way that could be pushed out. Like D-Lob 2010 said, they feel like they're doing that, but I promise you, I would like to see like where I could just tap on a YouTube channel or tap on a link and be like, man, I wonder what happened with FAM today. Because there's only if they scored 28 points, there's only 4 scoring plays. Or right. in a basketball game, you can look at the number of points scored or whatever.
Or in football, you're talking about the dynamic, like the big plays, like the big, the big run, the big throw.
Right.
The big turnover. And how many of those are in a game? Like I said, if you just took the top 10 play, if you focused on the top 10 plays of a game, right? Yes, maybe 4 to 5 of them are going to be scoring plays, but the other ones are going to be those plays that happen during a scoring drive.
Right.
Right.
And I think there's a couple of people in the chat saying, we know it's there because, like Bryan just said, I watch coaches' cuts too. And I watch them and I'm like, wow, this is pretty interesting that they have this. Well, in theory, you got to remember, if every game is being broadcasted on SWAC TV, there's something somewhere where that piece is there. So I do think that's something to be said. And Roy and I discussed this, Bryan. I don't know if you were on the call or whatever, but we were all just kind of, collaborating and talking about it. Like, it'll be super neat to have a red zone show for 829, because you got just a red zone. And when Roy kind of explained the dynamics of the mechanics of it, he said, probably going to need about 4 or 5 people. But I also said, all the games aren't at the same time, so that's helpful. But to have a red zone show for 829 is going to be really, really, in my opinion, is a really solid goal to shoot for, because you got Alabama State and Southern and Birmingham. You got the MEAC SWAC Challenge, which you might not be able to necessarily access. And some of it might have to be some straight voiceover or put the sound. So, if you look at the coverage of the bands, like they're saying in the chat, it's true. The talent is there. I'm with them. I'm a sideline guy. Like, I've grown to be just so fond of being right there on it. And most of the times I'm sitting with people that are 20 years younger than me, and they're like, hey, press your camera. I think they're going to score. I said, why do you know that? Well, they're lined up in this, and this safety isn't here. And, as you learn more and more about it, the next thing you know, here we go, guys scoring, and we got it there. And we all compare that you capture that. And so what Bryan is saying is, in essence, is it's all captured. It needs to be the other C word, which is curated. So looking at a red zone show for 829, I think we could really do a great job with that, Bryan, because Alcorn is set to open up against Miles. Season opener is 6 p.m. You got a 3 o'clock, you got a 7 o'clock. I just think people would be interested in knowing what's happening across the landscape.
Let me go to that. I had to, while you were bringing that up, and we'll come back to talking about, as we close the show a little bit later, we'll talk about what's ahead in baseball. But I'm going to bring up, since you teased it, I'm going to bring it up here, a look at 829 or week 0, which, again,
you're missing Alcorn Miles.
Yeah, this was done a couple of weeks ago, so it is missing the most up-to-date one, which I was just looking at. The only one on there is Alcorn Miles, which that right now is next to the time that's scheduled for Alabama A&M versus Howard, is the only one that's listed, and I'm looking at fbschedules.com, that's listed as a 7 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. Right?
Right.
So we know Mississippi Valley State at Nichols is on Thursday. We know the Miles at Alcorn is at 7 o'clock. Then you have the Alabama A&M Howard MEAC SWAC Challenge, which will be 7:30 on ABC. Now,
yeah, and you got some that probably don't have time to, like Morgan State A&T.
I mean, yeah, we'd be totally guessing and speculating on these game times.
Yeah. I'm just saying, with the amount, if you just looked at the amount of HBCU football is going on in that day on 0,
it's a heck of a schedule.
Oh my God! Howard A&M, Jackson State, Tennessee State, Southern Bama State, Morehouse UAPB, Albany State, Florida A&M, Morgan State A&T, Winston-Salem, Norfolk State, Prairie View, Tarleton, Shaw, Fayetteville. You got a package. Yeah, Emmett, I agree with you. It's gonna have to be a Saturday night highlight package or a Sunday morning. You're gonna be able to put together, Bryan. If we can put it together, that red zone package is gonna be something else. Even if we don't have full video on some of them, just because of proprietary pieces, we're gonna be able to bring in, it's gonna be a situation, I think, where we're gonna have something great for the audience around the HBCU, diaspora.
Here's why red zone works the way it works, and I don't know if everyone has really stopped to really think about this. One, it's all happening. It's all TV that is under the rights umbrella of the NFL.
Right.
Now, if you just look at just the MEAC, and then I'll flip back over to the SWAC in a second, you already see ESPN Plus,
ABC,
you see Flow Sports, you see ABC, the TV, TBA. I would imagine you're talking the Florida A&M SWAC TV, Southern Alabama State, 100% probably SWAC TV. Grambling State should be on SWAC TV because they're hosting it. Texas Southern, SWAC TV. UAPB Morehouse, SWAC TV. So you're probably talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games on SWAC TV. And we're talking the Saturday games. 2 games is the Miles Alcorn game. Oh, that'll be SWAC TV. So you got 6 SWAC TV games. Then you got the ESPN Plus games. 2 there.
Bryan,
to
interject in this, right? I think for what we want to maybe accomplish, I believe just the talk and the voiceover of it, even if you don't have the scoring plays or the videos, to talk about, hey, we got confirmation here. Score is, Jackson State, Tennessee State, so-and-so score throws for a touchdown, blah, blah, blah. Here's the time and score. I think that's going to be powerful as people are sitting here on their score app or whatever app they use to kind of keep up with their games, to see if we could produce a red zone. It might not have the full functionality like you're saying, because I can see now the proprietary breaking all this. but it still doesn't stop Bryan from Kelvin from jumping in and saying, hey, here's what we got. Miles Alcorn, 6 p.m., scored at 8 p.m., and I think one of the thoughts behind it was somebody being on that campus to stream in live and say, hey, I'm live at Alcorn, and they just scored. Here we go.
So what you're proposing or referring to is what the Saturday sports radio world has done, which is their in-game feature hits.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about. You're basically, it's basically a man on the street that, hey, we're gonna go to Kelvin, who's in Lorman,
Miles
Mississippi.
Alcorn.
Miles Alcorn. Kelvin, what do you see? You'll come in and say, it's 2:34 remaining in the first quarter. Alcorn is leading 14-0 on Miles. Scored 2 touchdowns already, 2 passes by such and such quarterback to whomever. Currently the ball, you know what I'm saying? Just giving kind of a 1-minute update on where you're at in the ball game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. We kind of talking through it, Bryan, and I'm thinking like this could be really, really nice because in theory we can already kind of pencil in someone that we could potentially have at every single space that could chime in with that update. It's going to be some mechanical challenges there. One, Wi-Fi access in Lorman. I don't know how packed it's going to be, but the people at Alcorn are super excited. I think this will be the first time in almost a decade that we've opened the season at home. So there are some excited people about this, and I think this came about at the right time in the right place. So I think this is going to be good.
Interesting. I'm learning something new here while you're talking about that. I'm learning something new as well. I'm excited. Now, let me ask your thoughts on a couple things since we're talking about this week 0 and the potential change. I mean, remember prior to this season, the kickoff of the Black college football season has been synonymous with week 0 and the MEAC SWAC challenge. Now you have a year where, I hate to say it like this, but it'll be interesting to see what the viewership, what the eyes and numbers show for the MEAC SWAC challenge when there are so many other games happening because people may be traveling to and from, but also I just find it difficult to believe that 7:30 p.m. that's going to be the only game of the day. I mean, you look at some of these times, I would be shocked if Florida A&M starts anytime earlier than 6 o'clock.
Right. I was about to
shocked.
say, yeah, because think about it. Jackson State switched their first 2 home games to 6 p.m. You're dealing with heat. This is August. And that's the whole reason why I think MEAC SWAC was down in that slot as well. There were some hot games prior to it sliding into that. So, but I will say this, though. Think about this. The streaming world, we've seen something that, it's not newly charted territory, but Drew and I were discussing earlier this week. You might see 100,000 people between between 3 games here. The Alabama State Southern game, Legion Field, might see 30 to 40K.
30. Yeah, I would go 30 minimum. 30 minimum.
Yeah, 30 minimum. Okay. Then Nissan Stadium with brothers and sisters from Jackson going to Nashville to they going because they went to Vegas. They went to Vegas.
That should be another 30 minimum.
Another 30. That's 60.
Tennessee should be excited about that game. The city of Nashville should be excited to have Jackson State in town. That should be minimum 30.
Yes. And that's the dynamic. I think this is an amazing thing. This is organically something that when I looked at it, I said, wow, this is MEAC SWAC challenge weekend in a sense. Although they're not all the same, Prairie View, Tarleton, but in Jackson State, Tennessee State. But if nothing else, you got a great MEAC SWAC challenge weekend. And this might be something to actually build on, like, as you kind of forecast to the future, like, how many of these matchups can we kind of get rounded up into this bundled up package here?
Yes.
To where we're like, you know what? Okay, North
go.
Carolina Central is at Texas Southern. Let's get Morgan State involved. Let's get Delaware State involved. Let's see if we can pull this off and see what it looks like.
Right, because the MEAC schools are already playing that weekend. Look at them. I mean, everybody in the MEAC is playing that weekend as well. You know,
that's what I'm getting at. If you look at it, that's strong. I like in that bracket right there. That's really nice.
Yeah,
that Morgan State A&T, although A&T is not in, you know, but Savannah State, SC State, Bama, I think we got a good thing going on.
Yeah, no, I definitely do. I agree. It'll be interesting to hear, you know, as we move a little later into the summer, to hear John Grant's thoughts on this, because I do think it's a great opportunity for the MEAC SWAC to kind of pivot and embrace what this is now. Now with the new calendar and more teams playing the weekend, because this isn't even Labor Day weekend. This is the weekend before Labor Day weekend, right? So
you got Southern Bama State in Birmingham. Look, I'm telling you something. You know, Southern people, football in the South is king anyway. You got Southern and Alabama State on an opening matchup in Birmingham with a black mayor, with black civic progress, with somebody who's invested in seeing you in their town, Montgomery, Baton Rouge. You got a situation, and then you got, of course, MEAC SWAC is in, the Black Spear, which is Atlanta, Howard and A&M. I mean, I'm just saying, I think you got a good thing to build on.
All right, but okay, so I love to do this. Let's look at these games. Top 5 games that you're most interested in. Your top 5, like, just way too early. May 3rd. What's your top 5 games in week 0? And let me know if you want me to flip over to the other page again.
No. I got you. My top 5 in that week 0 is
no particular order.
Okay.
Unless you can figure it out.
The Southern Bama State game. The Jackson State, Tennessee State game.
Check.
MEAC SWAC challenge. And if you flip back, North Carolina Central, Texas Southern, flip back to the other one. And I think for some strange reason, that Morgan State A&T game, because when I went over and visited Greensboro for the first time, the people, the boots on the ground told me, I went and watched them play Delaware or somebody, and it was literally nobody there, but I went to the game and I covered the game. But they said what we really love is when another HBCU comes.
Oh, yeah.
So something's telling me that Morgan State, North Carolina A&T game might be the one to get you another 20,000.
Well, do they even seat 20 at A&T? You can probably get, I think you can get 20. Maybe you probably get 15.
Yeah, 15. I'm just saying
15.
I think they're gonna have a good slot.
But that, okay, let me see. You got me.
And what's intriguing about what I just said is this: the game that I will be at working and making sure that we are all successful would be at probably MEAC SWAC challenge. But it's interesting from an attendance standpoint. I would love to see how MEAC SWAC challenge is going to stand up against. Take the Jackson State Tennessee State game in there. How it's going to stand up against the game. Which game? Like the North Carolina Central Texas Southern attendance.
Yes, that's a good point. See, okay, so I was struggling trying to figure out where am I going to put the MEAC SWAC challenge, because see, the challenge is without so many other HBCUs on hand, right? Because they're going to have schools, you're going to be at your school. I mean, for me, Jackson State, Tennessee State, Southern Bama State. I mean, that's like 1 and 2.
For honestly, sure.
1 and 2. Sure. I just that's 1 and 2. I think
that's interesting. If you're paying attention to the chat, I don't know if it's the fact that nobody's going to be interested in a North Carolina Central Texas Southern matchup, as opposed to SWAC teams have traditionally opened somewhere else other than their home stadium. And I think people want that's something. I just know the Alcorn fan base is super excited about it. I don't know. I don't think we're going to sell out, but I'm just saying, I think it's something to be excited about instead of seeing your team at North Alabama or South Alabama or, at some Power 5 getting a check to get smacked around. You're about to see your team open up in a what should be a competitive matchup.
And for North Carolina Central fans, North Carolina Central, you go check the stats. There's not too many times they travel west of the Mississippi, west of Alabama. Wow. So I could be wrong, but I don't think they play a lot of games going west. There's probably some history when you go look at the last time that North Carolina Central has been to Texas or Mississippi. So that will be an interesting opportunity for them to go to the Houston area. And like you said, for Texas Southern to be able to get a chance to have a home opener before the Labor Day Classic, right? That's what you're talking about. You got a chance to go in and have a game under your belt.
Yeah.
Before you play the defending SWAC champs, Prairie View A&M, who I think they're making big plans for that Labor Day Classic. I think they got a new title sponsor, and they're planning to do it real big. I think it's at Prairie View this year, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody in the chat can check me on that.
So we allegedly have a 2 p.m. start in Birmingham. If you flip back over,
I see it. I don't. Well, this site doesn't really say it, and the current website doesn't show that. Now,
right.
Again, this is a SWAC sponsored event. It would not surprise me that it be at a time that does not compete with the MEAC SWAC Challenge. So if not 2, maybe 3, 4 o'clock, you know what I'm saying? Something, I don't know. I don't know for a fact. I have not heard that about the 2 p.m. start. But you guys may be up on that a little bit better than me. I know there's been some stuff out there, but of course, me. I'll be at the Albany State, Florida A&M home opener, debut in the Clint Gray era.
We won't see you I won't see you in Atlanta.
Probably not. No, not if. Especially if I'm doing play-by-play for Florida A&M football games. That's where I'll be. I'll be in Tallahassee.
Excellent, B.
So, and so, it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I'm intrigued with you. Morgan State, North Carolina A&T, old MEAC rivals, right down the road. Baltimore, Greensboro. Just right down 95. Should be good opportunity for Morgan State folks to travel down to Greensboro, and for Greensboro to show up for an HBCU opponent.
And they want to. I'm telling you.
Yeah, they want to. I like you said, it sets up for some good debuts. The Alabama A&M Howard you got coaching debut at Howard. I don't know if anybody will be talking preseason about A&M. So, those fan bases, like Alabama A&M's fan base is really going to have to – I think they are the ones that can carry that game. I don't know if Howard will carry that game. In terms of Howard fan base. I don't know if Howard alumni will will show up to carry that game. We'll see. We'll find out.
From my communication with the A&M group, they're planning it big. I've had people call me from Atlanta that are A&M people, and they're saying, "Hey, this is going to be a takeover." So
okay.
I love
it. I love it.
Yeah, we're coming in from Huntsville. We want to be there. They're asking questions about, the amenities, about the stadium. So I don't know how much Howard will carry it, but I know the A&M, the people, they want to see the game.
Well, two good fan bases, and it is a first. See, again, what always is intriguing is watching a first. Like, I remember a couple years ago when Florida A&M and Norfolk State showed. Norfolk State did a good job of showing. Norfolk State fans did a good job of showing up. And because it's the first time that Norfolk State has really been a part of something like that, So they showed up. They had great representation. I mean, they didn't outdo FAMU, but who's going to outdo FAMU in Atlanta outside one of the other blue bloods, right?
Right.
So, but for them, they did a good job and showed up. So I think it has the same opportunity for Howard and Alabama A&M, But what you do miss, though, is you will miss the casuals. Like, you'll miss the casual Atlanta alumni from Jackson, Tennessee State, Southern, Florida A&M, who would normally go to the MEAC SWAC Challenge,
right,
but will not be there because their team is playing in other cities.
So Bryan, let's put a pivot in there, right? So with all that being said, with all this new scheduling put out, and you just brought about a point, because there's some data that we don't have, and I'll do a little data dig this week that shows the percentage of FAMU. Let's look at all the teams that are playing, right? And look at the percentage of their alumni that live in and around the Atlanta area. That could be a telltale story. Now, what does the market play look like? What does it now look like when you say, okay, now where are we marketing this? Like, are we going to really dig in with the high school scene there, the band scene? Are we really going to do something? Because we're over at the Georgia State football field has the ability to look really, really good because of the way the short side is kind of set up. Are we going to dig into the community, really market towards them? Boys and Girls Club of America, Girl Scouts of America, all these groups, all these mentor groups deal with the Divine Nine and Panalytic group to see, to put the best foot forward to pack in the MEAC SWAC. That might be something, because, like you said, the casual person is driving down to Tallahassee, over to Birmingham, and up to Nashville. Mm-hmm. That are Tennessee State, Jackson State, FAMU, and you named another school, Southern. So I'd love to know the percentage of the alumni, from those schools that live in Atlanta.
Yeah. This is a good question here too. The media coverage of the game will vary as well, because all of us we all kind of get together and see each other at the beginning of the year, and then it's like, hey man, have a great season this year, right? We all start our season in Atlanta and end our season in Atlanta. We won't be doing that this year because everybody will be spread out everywhere, all over the country, covering football games.
Mm-hmm.
So the MEAC SWAC Challenge becomes one game of many, and it may not be the sexiest matchup on the docket.
Well, isn't it? We've talked about this before. The game is put out almost. We know the opponent 2 years in advance, or we know
it's in 3 years. 3 years,
right? Yeah. So what we couldn't have predicted was this.
You couldn't predict that the rest of everybody else that they were gonna open up week 0, and everybody was gonna want to play games week 0.
That part I could have predicted more so than the swiftness of the CFP to move towards expanding their playoff, which is where all of this this movement is coming from anyway. Yeah, because think about this, Bryan. Now people are looking at ways to incubate or generate revenue because there's a punishment factor for you playing, if I'm Ole Miss, LSU, Bama, or somebody for playing FCS school, right? There's a punishment down the line that's waiting for you when they get to picking their group. So look at these economic incubators. Southern Bama State, I mean, shoot. I don't think you and I could have figured that one out. Like, how can we make some money in week 0? Jackson State, Tennessee State, how can we make some money in week 0? You've seen some proven entities make this money. And I think the one thing Jackson State, Tennessee State did was they kind of looked at probably their year-over-year return from the former classes they were in that now Alcorn and UAPB are in. Southern Heritage has said, we need to get together if for nothing but the sake of making some money. We need one another for this type of dance activity. So that is interesting.
Yeah. Interesting indeed. We'll talk more about that week 0 and other highlighted games during later on in the year. But some good points that you brought up, and I look forward to seeing how we pull all that off.
Bryan, here's some interesting statistics from institutional reports and alumni associations. Southern University has an estimated 100,000 plus alumni, with Georgia ranking as Atlanta hosts the largest of all the out-of-state chapters of their university. That's an interesting number. Followed right behind FAMU, where Atlanta is the largest alumni hub for FAMU, which, it makes sense. And then Alabama State, it maintains a somewhat of a presence. Jackson State's presence there is very large. And then followed by Tennessee State. So that's interesting that I never, and I'm gonna tell you when you kind of see it more evident than me X-Swag Challenge, Celebration Bowl, if you ever were to get out and walk the concourse or be able to see, that's when you really see like, hold on, there is really a montage of FAM, Southern, South Carolina State was very surprising, and a lot of Alcornites. And now a lot is relevant because some of the schools are just simply larger than our institutions.
Yeah. Well, again, I continue to push, that the Celebration Bowl is a Super Bowl event for us.
Oh my God. It's the best thing ever.
And I wonder, Kelvin, this is the possibility of the future, right? Obviously, as you start thinking about, where the Celebration Bowl has been. But I really think conversations coming up for the next deal or the future, if we're moving, if black college football is moving itself, and look, so a couple things have to happen here. If the NCAA is not going to change the schedule for FCS levels, right? Which it could, but do they want to? And I think part of that is really a lot based on what's happening at the other level, right? Will there be a point in which the MEAC SWAC and the Celebration Bowl come together and say, could we move our game into another window, a different week, and take advantage of this whole national championship vibe that's going on out there? Because, the FCS is moving there. They run their championship now into January. The football championships are running in mid-January. I just wonder how long realistically is the Celebration Bowl going to stay at the date that they're at. You had to
hadn't both games moved once?
Was it last year?
Last year was time slots. Something happened with the dynamics of the game. I think
last year was the second year that they had to move because of the college football playoff window,
right,
being created when it was, and it started the weekend that the MEAC SWAC Challenge used to run.
Yes.
So because of that, they moved the schedule. They moved up a week. Now,
what we do know is this, Bryan. We don't talk about this much on this show, but we do know that, and I talk to people a lot here in a Midwest town that doesn't have an HBCU that plays football, and people ask me about this game all the time. And I was telling somebody the other day, I walked into one of our most prominent restaurants, and it was like a Thursday, and a Fort Valley game was on. It was Fort Valley and Clark. Mm-hmm. And I was just asked, like, hey, man, who asked for the game? And they were like, oh, everybody over there bet on this game. And what we kind of really need to kind of keep in mind is no matter how we feel about the product on one side, there is the gambling aspect of it kind of lets you float it a little bit differently. If the gambling wasn't so vested in all of this, then we might be looking at a situation like, can we figure out where we fit? Do we need to move? Do we need to be in a different slot? And then some of this is could be good being on after a Alabama versus so-and-so, or because there's no fatigue early. You know, one cool part about all of this is there's a thirst factor for sport in August, football. Mm-hmm. So you're thirsty for it. And then the other part is you're also thirsty for that championship piece around about that winter time around December. So you got that coupled with gambling. Mm-hmm. So we don't always, I won't call it the third pillar of influence, but guaranteed, that type of dynamic, really, really, really does do, have a lot to do with the impact of those decisions.
Yeah. There's still some things that have to happen before it becomes really an influencer. I kind of pay attention to those markets, and a lot of times the Celebration Bowl doesn't even get mentioned along with other bowl games that first weekend of the season, of the bowl season, even though you can wager on it, just like all the other little cheap bowls, all those other little bowls that start the first weekend, I mean, the Celebration Bowl is way more meaningful than the Pop-Tart. I'm sorry, maybe not the Pop-Tart, but the Rice Krispie Cakes Bowl and the GoDaddy Super.com Bowl. I don't know. It just whatever.
But hey, look at the.
You get my point.
The one thing that's different about the Celebration Bowl that the cachet of the other bowls don't have. I mean, unless you get to the end, it actually means something because in John Grant's words, the crowning of a champion. And like the person just said in the chat, the gamblers are just as mad when they're not updating our scores as they are when they, and this is the truth. Mm-hmm. I love to see, because I go to the casino, and if I'm going to place a wager, I place it live. I mean, I place it in the casino as opposed to on the app. I don't care if they talked about the game or not. The gamblers that are on the screen that are picking their games, they're pushing the button. Mm-hmm. And they're asking questions like, anybody seen these guys play? Like, what do you think? What's going on around here? Because I got to put them in the parlay, or I want to do something. So I do think this will also, Brian, probably lead us into a deeper water conversation around the HBCU product, the bands, all of these things. We still hadn't talked about the HBCU band of the year. It kind of coincides with the Celebration Bowl piece that's there. And I also think this is gonna, one thing that the what's it called in education or the proof of concept around the SWAC TV is this: we do know there are eyes on it and plenty of them.
Oh yeah.
So with the proof of concept I think there's something coming to come that's going to be really, really dynamic in terms of what our institutions are able to do and how they're going to be able to, benefit from this piece. Like it is a really, really, really big deal. So the challenge in the bowl need market their products as all HBCUs, as if everyone has a chance to financially benefit from them attending the game. Make it worth folks' while, and they will show. Interesting. I've said that year over year, Brian. Like, they promote the game, but it's so much more than a game. I love it so much when I show up in Atlanta for MEAC, SWAC, and Celebration Bowl. But again, we're HBCU grads. We have an expectation. We see something different and something new, and we gravitate towards it. But I'm with the person that just put that in the chat. To your, what did you call that consumer that just going to show up at the game because it's a game that's going casual, or that consumer is still going to be roaming around Atlanta for MEAC, SWAC, and Celebration, and they're not going to Birmingham, they're not going to Florida, Tallahassee, and they're not going to Nashville. How do you engage that group to where, man, it's a football game in town? Is it contacting every high school football coach within 20 miles of Atlanta? Is it sending out, is Cricket Wireless, is it that deal where we got, like, their display is so ridiculous that I can only imagine that if tapped and challenged to say, how do we engage a casual market per se? What does it look like then?
Right. Good point. Let me interrupt with a score update. I have my scorebud or the live stats running on another window. We have our first score of the game in the SIC baseball championships between Edward Waters and Spring Hill College. In the top of the 8th inning, Edward Waters plates a run on a sacrifice fly by Bobby Torres, which brings a run home. And in the top of the 8th inning, Edward Waters still at the plate, leads 1-0 over Spring Hill. First run scored in the top of the 8th inning. Spring Hill is the home team. So once again, the winner of this game advances to the championship game. Loser has to come out of the loser bracket where they will play the winner of Morehouse and Benedict tonight. So again, that is happening over on SWAC TV. Apparently, again, no outs here in the top of the 8th, so Edward Waters might be able to bring a couple more people in. Not really sure, but just thought I'd mention that. Okay. I wanted to kind of get your take on one last topic. I wanted to get your thoughts on. I thought you saw did you see the note about the increase of the NCAA, or the proposed increase? I don't know if it's official yet, but it seems to be going that direction. The increase of the NCAA men's basketball tournament from now 68 to 76.
It's a money grab. It's arguably the best product in sports. The NCAA tournament. I don't think it gets any better. It's the best product in sports. It's a money grab, but I do see there are no more slippers. There's no more Cinderella slippers to be worn. And ultimately what will happen is, if I were willing to predict how many of the expanded field will be SEC or Big 10 teams or Big 12 teams. It'll probably be a total of 8 teams from those 3 leagues that'll be in that, yes, money grab for the P4 in that group. And then it's really challenging because of the way we feel about our institutions. If you can be fully transparent about the product and what we present, we've shown that we can win, but I think you're going to have to show it more during the season, which means you're going to have to, I know they don't want to play you, but you're going to have to figure out some games that could lend somebody towards saying Prairie View compares to Miami of Ohio, or they compare to, I'm trying to think of some of those teams that were down in those 16s, because of the way they spread it out. Like you had a Texas team playing, we were talking about this. You had a Texas team playing in the middle with an 11-12 game or some game. And I was like, wow, Texas isn't bad. And Texas ended up winning about 3 games in the tournament, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They're a clear example of a team that's going to be down there in that 76, that type of team. And we all know with that type of team, the chances of a SWAC team beating that type of team, it's just, or it's hard just because we're emotionally tied to it, but we got to look at the product. It's kind of like right now, and we didn't pivot towards Mike Davis, but it tells a story of, if we don't have an auto bid, which I believe we still will in the 76.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we get another team in. It'd have to be one incredible year for Team 2.
So based on kind of, I've listened to a few things, but I just did the math. From this field of 68, when they introduced this concept, essentially what it did was open up for 8 more teams to battle for 4 spots to get into the 64, right? Because the 64 begins Thursday. So now that you have 76 teams, so what you're inherently doing is adding 16 more teams. That's 8. Let me see. 24 minus 8 is what? 16. So 16 more teams. That's 8 more games into the mix. So you essentially will have 24 teams vying for 12 spots into the 64. Because you're going from 76 to 64. And if you think about how it's set up, these 12 spots, well, divide that by 4, and that's 3 seed lines. Well, what are the 3 seed lines? Well, it's always been 16, so that won't change. But now, instead of being 2 16 seed lines, all 4 of them will be up. I think you're also going to see a move that'll include the 15 seeds. More teams that were maybe once 13 and 14 seeds will have to play, or maybe 14 seeds will have to play 15s. And I feel like everybody will move down a seed. So in essence, what I think will happen is you'll have play-in games for the 16 seeds, the 15 seeds, and the 11 seeds will all stay. Possibly they move them to the 12 seeds now.
Oh, I kind of get what you're saying now.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're saying in essence, a school like a Texas wouldn't have fallen into this ranking. They would have slid. There's really not going to be a Cinderella now. If I were to just take what you just said and just draw it out, then that means you're almost guaranteed not to get a Cinderella, because Texas would have ended up being the natural low seed in the lower teams. That,
right.
If I had my bracket, I could pull it out. I could almost take this year's bracket and show you this pool in the team. Like, as much as they argued about Miami of Ohio, they'd have been in the 12-team play-in.
Yes, they would have been a 12-team play-in. Yeah. And so, I think there's a couple different routes that they can go. They could choose. And it'll be interesting to watch what they do, because the whole premise is, with giving 16 more teams an additional opportunity to get in, what they really want to do is they want to give 8 more Power 4 teams a shot.
Yes.
They want to give 8 more Power 4 teams. I'm saying 8 at minimum.
Yes.
8 more an opportunity. So you got to seed those teams somewhere. So I think you're going to be looking at maybe 11s and 12s now. And I heard somebody bring up a great analogy. Think about all those teams who passed up on going to the NIT this past year because they missed out on being even in the top 68. Well, next year, those teams will actually be a part of the 76.
Yep.
So the level of the teams that had mediocre conference seasons, well, you had a good non-conference schedule, but then when you got into your conference play, you finished less than 500 because, we understand your conference is so hard and there's 20 teams in your conference, right? But you are part of the elite, so we'll give you a shot. And so it does not open up any more opportunities for the MEAC and SWAC. You are a one-bid league. You're going to stay a one-bid league. And, like you said, if somebody has the kind of great season like what we've seen on the women's level, then you might avoid being a 16 or 15 seed. But you probably won't, because your conference will rate so low as one of the 31st, 30th, or even worse, the 32nd rated conference among the top 32 conferences. So, it is what it is. Look, I'm not gonna get flustered about it. I do think what it'll open up for is it'll open up more opportunities elsewhere. It'll be interesting to watch how they try to squeeze in. Let me see. 24 to 12. How they try to squeeze in 6 games on a Tuesday and 6 games on a Wednesday prior to the Thursday. Just as long as they don't mess with Thursday. You're not going to mess with Thursday, but you are going to end up with 6 games. And I could see them creating, it's all money grab, right? So now instead of Dayton, you could possibly have 2 more sites. I
think the allure of it is, in my opinion, I would be more apt to drive over to Dayton from St. Louis if I could see 3 games. No matter how you configure it, I don't know about the site piece. I think they're kind of building on something with that pod model. Now they might switch it, which I doubt it. Dayton's just been like the spot to go to. But I would say that'd be another part of the money grab. I can go see 3 NCAA games at one site for this amount, so spreading it out might get you some more people, but I could easily see them saying, hey, because what's the other site other than Dayton?
Right now, it's only been Dayton, but they have not used Dayton as part of a first. Well, Dayton has been the site for the first 4. The 2
that's
games.
What I'm saying. Are they the only site for the first 4?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I could see them adding another site and then making it to where, man, I'm telling you something. For people that really, really like basketball and watch basketball, they go to these things. Like there are people that were here for the Midwest Regional in St. Louis that did not have a horse in the game. Now they set it up to where Illinois and Mizzou would run into one another here in St. Louis. It didn't happen, but it was set up for it to happen. So people buy tickets based upon that regional comparisons. But now then, Bryan, if we're always going to be the worst rated conference and we're always going to get the 1 bid because that's what we get, how do the other tournaments, and I promise you, I watch basketball emphatically during tournament time. Mm-hmm. You talk about no advertisement and no coverage of nothing basketball other than the field of 64 or whatever it is. I saw the other tournaments going on, and I had to do a double take on. I was like, "Where's that tournament? Where's that tournament? Who is that playing?" Like, there was no natural advertisement of this.
Yeah, I mean,
which was intriguing because you used to see a little advertisement for the NIT and the CBI or whatever these things are. Now, I promise you, I was sitting in the bar watching the game. I was like, "Who is this, and why are they playing?" And I watch basketball every day.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, it may become. I hate to say this, but it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot to try to find. I mean, because think about the women's tournament is happening at the same time, and there's just as many. So at the same time that the men's tournament is going on, the women's tournament is going on. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, I'm just saying that we know the women's is going on and the men's is going on, but I'm saying for me to not even know. I was watching it because the floor was so funny on the game, and I don't know where they were playing. It seemed like it was all one site, you know. And then now with the advent of, you know, I'm gonna bring this up, Brian. Remember, 2 or 3 years ago, where the Howard basketball coach attempted to do something with private equity or something with the program?
Well, it was talked about. Yeah, they didn't move forward with it, but it was still talked about. Yeah.
So intriguing for next season. Duke brokers a deal to have all of their non-conference games broadcast on Prime. Same thought, same concept, no uproar. You know, if you kind of read the thoughts.
I wonder how they and I got to read into more of that because I wonder because they you've got the ACC, so I wonder how that superseded or how they moved away from like the ACC network, how they moved away from ESPN.
So I think from me watching this, and I got enough bandwidth to watch it, what I noticed about the ACC, those conference networks were, they had first dibs on Bryan and Kelvin playing. If we just say we're both in the ACC, you got all the rights on that matchup as the ACC network or the SWAC network. When you go out of conference, something tells me that everybody else falls into the secondary slot of the institution. Because remember when Texas had the Texas Football Network before the Big 12 network came about, they had their own network. The only games you could get, but I'm just saying Duke has to know something for them to come out with a deal with Prime. So now when Duke plays Michigan State, UCLA, and so, that would be interesting.
Those games used to appear on like CBS or,
you
know, I gotta do a little more digging into seeing how all that works.
Well, here's the one thing, Brian, that we do know. They made an announcement, and we ain't got to figure out the how. It's just intriguing to me because I've been watching the NBA playoffs on Prime. So I was sitting at a restaurant. I saw it was on Prime, and I told the bartender, well, I guess I can't watch the game. She said, no, we just bought Prime on DirecTV. And I was like, this is crazy. It's like channel 9505. I said, Prime is so ridiculous that DirecTV figured out a way to they're now on DirecTV. So it's pretty good.
I got a couple good notes here from Doc, who, Doc's watching and listening to the show regarding there's a great article, and I'll have to tweet this out, from Yahoo Sports. The title, Big Ten Myth About Duke's Landmark Amazon Deal.
Mm-hmm.
So here basically the cliff notes that Doc sends me. The Big Ten notified the ACC and ESPN that it owns the rights of the announced neutral site basketball game between Duke and Michigan next season from Madison Square Garden, scheduled for streaming on Amazon. Duke collaborated with the ACC and television partner ESPN to strike the first of its kind arrangement, agreeing to future scheduling commitments in exchange for the 3 games against Michigan on December 21st in New York, UConn on November 25th in Las Vegas, and Gonzaga on February 20th in Detroit.
So guess what? It's not all, but that's a heck of a deal because guess what? Look at where those commitments are.
Yeah.
New York, Vegas.
Yeah.
That I mean, okay, they didn't get them all, but that's solid. That's somebody thinking like, let me see how I can pull this off. Because again, it's all about, Ben, Andrew, and George.
Well, everybody, see, that's the thing. Now you have so many different, now with ESPN Prime and all these networks are trying to get into the space. They're going to overpay. And if your school is big enough and you have a brand enough, well, then why wouldn't I want to get Duke? Why, let me start with Duke and then go from there, right?
I got a question, Bryan, and I know Dr. Cavill is listening. I'm just asking, and it's just an opinion question, and they can, post in the chat. Do you think that, and forget how we feel about our institutions, do you think Prime would pick up, Prime would pitch like, hey, man, let me grab a FAM game, a Jackson State game, or that's the two biggest brands or whatever, a FAM and a Jackson State game, and I'm going to place it on Prime because I know my demographic at Prime that spends money, and I'm going to see if I can blow this up, meaning what type of viewership I could generate for the FAMU Bethune-Cookman game and the either Jackson State, Tennessee State, or Jackson State Alcorn game on Amazon. You get what I'm saying? Because you are saying
what sport?
Football. Of course, football.
Oh, okay.
You're willing, but you're like you just made a comment. They're willing to overpay. So that means they'd have to buy they have to buy the SWAC out of their SWAC TV rights to the game.
Yeah.
No, I think so.
Yes.
We're all SWAC. They'd have to buy them out or do a simulcast or do something. But that would be so interesting to see if they saw the value prop in it or I really don't care, but I'm going to do this because everybody at FAM and Jackson State and Alcorn got Prime and they're going to order this stuff anyway. Or I want even more people on Prime because they're going to be buying stuff while they're watching the game. I would just like to know, in theory, do you think or do either any of you guys think Amazon would pick up SWAC?
I think from the standpoint of the culture that you're starting to see with HBCU bands being integrated into doing things like Florida A&M being a part of that Prime Video thing with the NBA. You're seeing other bands picked up by the culture. I do think there is an opportunity with the right people, and this is where you start moving into your leadership and who your leaders are. If you have a university with the right kind of leadership, you could pull that off. That could pull off. And what's even cooler, like I noticed you watch anything on Prime.
Oh my God.
And you watch and you notice how they do those in-show in-show, like, hey, do you want to buy this product? But can you imagine, like, I'm watching the game and then all of a sudden, I don't know, some retailer like is showing an ad for, I don't know, but there's an opportunity to do in-game advertising and sales.
That is interesting,
while you're watching the Florida Classic. The Florida Classic on Prime, and all of a sudden, here's an ad for purchasing
generators. Something you're going to need. Like I could literally see, and I'm not a marketing person, but if I was being thoughtful about the stuff that would be seen during the games, it's almost like watch a regional broadcast of a game versus a national and pay attention to the advertisements. They're like totally different. But I could only imagine what the people at Amazon would have primed up. Oh, that's a good name. Primed up for Bryan and Kelvin is going to be there. They probably look at every algorithm of every Prime candidate, and they're about to set forth on selling triple What that?
And hold on, let me address Mike Road Dogg. Mike, if you already have Amazon Prime,
You watch the game.
You have Prime Video already. If you are watching NBA games on Prime, you have Prime. The same. If you have Netflix, you're watching when they run Netflix sports. It's already included. So now, I mean, if you don't have it, then that's one thing, right? But because of the integration that Prime Video is with Prime, I'm paying for Prime and I get Prime Video. I don't even think about it anymore. Netflix, they're about to, they keep going up $1 every month to the point where I'm about to move away from them, but I still got it. And when they show these live sporting events, I tune in because the NFL's on there. So they got me.
So let me tell you something. There was a bar here in St. Louis that almost lost their minds. They took the Chiefs games. St. Louis, since the Rams left, they just followed the Chiefs. They took the Chiefs games off of and put them on Prime or Peacock. Something happened to where everybody almost lost their mind. Mm-hmm. And they figured it out because they were not going to have any business that day because the games were on I think it was Peacock. But surprisingly, all of these things have really good on-air personality. I like the Prime broadcast. I think Prime has Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, Carmelo Anthony, and Mariah Taylor. And then football has the Richard Sherman group and Fitzpatrick that played at Harvard. I just think it's opened up so many different avenues. But, man, that would be a hell. I would love to see what ad they're going to pop up. I
think as SWAC TV grows and shows itself as the type of platform that it is going to become and is moving into that direction, I won't be surprised to see what you just speak of happen. I could see them taking the top 5 games from the year, and if the SWAC were the SWAC, which I know they are. So I mean, I can see them taking here's a 5-game package of SWAC games that'll be on Prime Video.
Well, here's the thing that's interesting, Brian. Based on the numbers that we've been given about the eyes that are on SWAC TV, there's no way possible if I'm Amazon and they like to sell everything that I'm saying, hold on, SWAC, how many people are watching this with not one thing being sold? Mm-hmm. Bring those eyes to me and let me see what my revenue is going to be during. And I know it's not tracked like this, but somebody somewhere knows how many things are bought on Prime during an NBA broadcast.
Oh, yeah, they track all that. They track all that stuff.
Yeah, I bought last night during one of the games, I bought a jump box. I bought, like, instead of booster cables, I was thinking about it, and I was like, man, I need a jump box. And
I have one of those. I bought it off Amazon. I bought a jump box off of Amazon.
Yeah, I saw
about a month ago.
Yep. I saw the Prime Video thing. I was like, oh, man, I got Prime. And I wonder just, and we're talking about this kind of, in an abstract.
Yeah.
But we'll do a timestamp on this, May 3rd.
Yeah.
At the 2 hour and 9 minute mark, 5 games are now getting ready to be on the Me Extract Challenge on Amazon Prime. Like, we're gonna be sitting here like, we'll all have to wear the company colors, which we're already Amazon colors anyway, black and blue. So we'll all have on black and blue Amazon vests for the show. Like, it could be interesting.
Let's get ready to close the show out. I want to just once again mention the remaining SWAC baseball schedule. Again, want to remind everybody, make sure to go check out the broadcast of the SWAC softball tournament beginning Tuesday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo in Gulfport, Mississippi. All the games will be on SWAC TV, including the championship game. Charles Edmond and Simone Stanley will be a part of the broadcast. Should be a great weekend or a great week of softball. Here's baseball. Baseball headed into the final 2 games of the stretch. Here's the schedule and what everyone has remaining. You know, we already talked about Bethune having a 2-game lead right now. What's remaining for Bethune will be an interesting matchup. They have Alabama State this upcoming weekend, and they close with Grambling State, which I think now, given the fact of what Grambling State just did to FAMU, makes the last two very interesting for Bethune. For Southern, who is 2 games back of first place, they have Texas Southern and Alabama A&M. A very favorable schedule for a team that is on a 12-game conference winning streak. Alabama State, they have the series against Bethune-Cookman this weekend, and then they close against your Braves, Kelvin. Grambling State plays UAPB this weekend. That's an interesting matchup. UAPB, one of the 8. Bethune-Cookman to close the season. So not an easy schedule in the final 6 for Grambling. Florida A&M has Alabama A&M, a team that, you know, not one of the 8, but, you know, and then Texas Southern. So Texas Southern, one of the teams that's part of the 8. Texas Southern, they close the season against Southern and FAMU. UAPB closes the season against Grambling and Jackson State. And Jackson State closes against Mississippi Valley State and UAPB. So, you know, that'll be an interesting run there here at the end of the season for those teams. So, all right. All right. Well, Kelvin, man, I mean, I appreciate you jumping in and filling in and sharing some thoughts with me tonight. Always enjoy your perspective. Quick score update for anybody who's curious. Bottom of the 9th inning right now. Edward Waters still holding on to a 1-0 lead over Spring Hill. Unbelievable going on right now. Edward Waters looking for a shutout on Spring Hill. So far pitching a 3-hit shutout. So Edward Waters, if they win, they advance to the championship game. There still is one more game tonight in the SIC, so make sure to jump over to the SIC network to go watch Benedict versus Morehouse tonight. So, all right. Kelvin, any final thoughts here as we close the show?
No, you know, Bryan, is always great to be here. Always appreciative of the relationships that, you know, were born 4 or 5 years ago between Drew and the network and Roy and the whole crew. And I think this just shows that pivot shift as we look at, like you just said, 3 years ago, we are all in Atlanta to kick off football season together. And now here we sit almost 3 years later. And like Drew was saying, man, it's almost be like a skeleton crew of who's normally here, because 4 of you guys I know will be, ONG will be at it'd be at FAM. Another group will be at Southern. And so, you know, and I'll be there. Nashville, and I'll be there with Drew in Atlanta. So I think this will be like a really, really interesting time, you know, and to figure it out. So, you know, everybody have a great week, you know, and understand that, you know, it's powering your purpose and everything that you do out there. So have a great week. Hey, Bryan, I know you got about 12 more days of school left. I know you're super excited, brother, for all your educators out there.
Teacher Appreciation Week this week. Looking forward to it. I'm gonna be judging. I'm gonna judge my kids very harshly based on who brings me gift cards and certificates and things of that nature, and those who do not. So I will be very harsh in my evaluations. And you know, those who ask, "Oh, can I get some extra credit? What did you bring me this week?" No, I'm just kidding. So but anyway, I'm looking forward to all the discounted deals, Chick-fil-A, all the goodies that you can get this week being a teacher and an educator. So shout out to all the educators this week. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week. And make sure to tune in Wednesday, special show of the ONG Strike Zone. Gonna be doing a little celebrating on Wednesday, so should be fun. That's gonna do it. Make sure to go download the BCSN Pod Zone, everybody. We appreciate it. I've seen the numbers go up a little bit, so that means more and more people are downloading and checking out the streams. The BCSN Pod Zone, which is the aggregate of all of the shows that are on the Black College Sports Network, is available on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google Podcasts, and more. Everywhere that you listen to download and podcast, download and listen to podcasts, BCSN Pod Zone. So thank you. Follow on social, donate if you want to via the chat, via the Cash App, or on the Super Chat on the Jericho Broadcast YouTube. We appreciate you. For Kelvin Carter, I'm Bryan Fulford. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Great conversation. Hit the thumbs up and like button as you head out, and tell a friend about the show. Hopefully Drew will be on next week, unless he's hosting another tournament somewhere. We'll see. But for AD Drew, who's not here, and Kelvin Carter, who is here, I'm Bryan Fulford. Thanks for watching. Have a great week, everybody. Good night, and God bless.